Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the most dangerous combat sport in the world, American politics. I'm Ted King, and guess what? We're going to be reporting on this Epstein emails that just came up. Also, we're going to be talking about the pending agreement to open up the government, and also we're going to be expounding on other things. So let's get to it.
Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, a key member of the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee as well. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. What stands out to you from these emails that were publicly released by the committee today?
Yeah, so number one, it is clear that he knew what was going on, which I think that he's kind of alluded to that at some point in time, because the president said that he was trying to kick Ghislaine out of Mar-a-Lago because it seems like that's where girls were being recruited from based on information that we have. But more importantly is that he was having conversation, he being Jeffrey Epstein, with Michael Wolff, who is writing this book or trying to put together this book. And in real time, as Trump is running for his first presidential run, we hear or we see that he made it clear that he believes that he has leverage over Trump. And he said that a Trump regime would basically open up, this is me paraphrasing, this is not exactly what it said, but basically it'd be a free-for-all. And as we've seen, especially in this second term, it's been a free-for-all where Trump has absolutely pardoned some folk that we know are terrible, and we are waiting on him to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. I think that that's coming up soon, too.
Yeah, an important point indeed. Congresswoman, let's take a closer look at that email from Epstein where he writes to the author, Michael Wolff, saying this, and it's a direct quote, redacted victim, the name was redacted. Mar-a-Lago, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Obviously, we don't have the full context here, but I'm curious, how do you read this specific email and what it means?
Yeah, I think that it is showing that he was well aware and he was trying to cover his tracks at that point in time. And I think that that's what you saw from Jeffrey. Obviously, it'd be better if we could talk to Jeffrey today, but it was very interesting that ultimately Jeffrey Epstein died sitting in prison during Trump's administration.
We had on Representative Marlon Stutzman earlier. He's a Republican, and he tried to make the case that President Trump is the most investigated person in the world, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing here. What do you make of that?
Listen, they will do and say anything to cover themselves. You know, I will admit that Donald Trump has been investigated more than the normal, but he just happens to be more corrupt and more criminal than any other president than we've had. I will point out he is the only president who has been convicted of 34 felony convictions that we've ever had in the Oval Office. So while we don't know exactly what crimes he may or may not have committed, just think of it this way. If you know that you didn't do anything, then why is it that you would be twisting members of your own party's arms, trying to get them not to release it? This would be exonerating. If you know that you are free and clear, then why not say, you know what, release the files? In fact, he campaigned on releasing the files because he didn't realize that anything that he was involved in whatsoever was involved in the files. But let me tell you something. Another thing that was said in that other email that he had with Michael Wolff was he was talking about if he wants to basically play hardball, we will make mention of the fact that he really has been on the plane. And I don't remember if it mentioned the island.
Let's actually put that email up just so our viewers can fully understand what it says. I just hope the control room can put this email up. It says, I think you should let him hang himself. And this is in response to a question of whether CNN would plan to ask Trump in a town hall about the relationship with Epstein. Epstein said, how do we craft an answer for him? And Michael Wolff says in this email, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime.
Yes.
That's a full email.
Yes. That is clear. that Jeffrey Epstein had something to hang over his head. Why else or how else could you have a debt that you are able to? Now, exactly what it was, who knows, right? And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. But the fact that Trump does not want these files to be out, to me, says that he has more to hide than him actually being able to exonerate himself.
And then the other email talking about that we used initially, I'm just trying to find that email so I can be really precise here, but it talks about how Epstein is emailing Maxwell saying that Trump was with a victim at his house for several hours. This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken. Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that, and can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand,
Okay,
but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth. Whether or not she told everything, who knows? Again, another person that we can't talk to because we have yet another side around this. So I think that that's actually one of the things that we should talk about, is that the president has tried to call this all a hoax. I don't think you have this many people dying around a hoax. I don't think you have somebody trying to hide files around a hoax. We know that there's something there. We know that his own attorney general had to admit that he is in the files. But they are trying to hide stuff. The only reason that we have these emails is because we were able to get them from the estate. Not because the Department of Justice was releasing information, not because Kash Patel was releasing information, even though they've had subpoenas from the Oversight Committee for some time. Kash Patel continues to hold back information. So I thank God that there is somebody that still respects the law and still respects subpoenas in this country, but it's not the people that are in power to do it, the people that actually conducted the investigation. Imagine what we may discover if we got the investigatory information versus getting something from an estate.
Well, but we should also note that the head of the Oversight Committee is a Republican. It's Republican. The chairman is James Comer. And he is the one who is issuing these subpoenas.
Well, let's be clear about this.
Okay.
This is not something that he wanted to do. This was a subcommittee, remember? It has been the Speaker of the House who has consistently tried to avoid this by shutting down the House. So what the Speaker did is he sent us out on an early recess. But before we left, it was a subcommittee of the Oversight Committee that actually did the motion for the subpoenas, and the Democrats kept pushing, and some Republicans actually joined with the Democrats. This was not led by James Comer.
Like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't know if she's on that subcommittee.
Okay.
But Nancy Mace is on that subcommittee for sure. She's actually the chair of that subcommittee. This subcommittee, the ranking member is Summer Lee. So it was that subcommittee. So this was actually the tail wagging the dog. I just want to be clear about that. And ultimately, the chairman had a vote that was bipartisan, that was the majority, and he had to do it. But whether or not they have been like slow rolling this, there is no question about the fact that they have.
And you have had Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe Thomas Massey. It's been some Republicans who want the full floor vote on this.
Yeah, we've got 4. 4 out of the 219 Republicans, yes, in the House. The rest of them seem to be okay with being complicit with protecting pedophiles.
You know, it's interesting. A CNN poll from last July showed that 50% of Americans were feeling dissatisfied about the amount of information released on the Epstein case. Did that have any influence at all on your decision to make these emails public today?
No, I mean, ultimately what's happened is, obviously, again, we've not been getting anything from the DOJ. Instead, it's been the estate of Epstein. And so as they've been turning things over, it takes staff time to review those documents and things like that to make sure that we've got something, number one, of value to the public. There's still additional information. I want to be clear. We got way more than 3 emails. But in their cursory review, they were able to say, okay, here are 3 emails that we think are of value. We do anticipate that there will be more that they will find that will be of value. They will go through the redaction process. They will also consult with the Republicans before we release anything. So it takes a little bit of a process. But I will say again, that the estate seemingly has been more participatory than our own Department of Justice, who we actually oversee.
So where do you think all of this is heading?
Good question. I don't know, but hopefully it will start with the swearing in of Adelita Grijalva, as they have been avoiding that. Again, the House was shut down over that. I'm sure that the president has been making calls trying to get one of the 4 Republicans that did sign on to the discharge petition. I'm sure he is begging and threatening to get them to pull their names off of there. We know that they don't want to vote. We know that they called us in just for one day to work after we've been out since September. Again, we could be doing additional work. Even if this continuing resolution passes, we should be passing our appropriations bills. That's all the continuing resolution is for, it is in the meantime.
I wonder if this now further shades the conversation that Ghislaine Maxwell had with Todd Blanche before she was transferred to a Club Fed style prison where she's treated much better than the high security prison she was in before, the one that the type of people convicted of the type of crimes that she was convicted for usually stay in, the ones that are not transferred to the nicer facilities, obviously nicer being relative. Here's what Ghislaine Maxwell said to Todd Blanche. I think they were, regarding Donald Trump, I think they were friendly like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. Again, this is what she told Blanche in July of this year. The emails between her and Epstein from 2011 suggest something different. Seem to, at least.
Yeah, that's correct. And maybe she carefully worded that. She wasn't in the room, perhaps, when some of this was going on. But she certainly, look, she knows everything that happened. She is a very smart, shrewd woman, and she has the goods. I mean, she really does know what happened. So I think it's a little disingenuous of her to play as though she's still saying she didn't even know Epstein was, abusing young girls or young women. So her whole testimony with Blanche was really, in some ways, suspect from the very start.
I guess there are 2 questions here, and Ken kind of touched on this. There's one, did Donald Trump himself do anything inappropriate? Was he involved with any of the women? And we haven't, and you correct me if I'm wrong, there has not yet been a woman saying that happened to her with the president. Virginia Giuffre never said that. And then the second question is, did he know about it, though? Was he aware of what was happening on that island, on those planes, what Jeffrey Epstein was doing with Ghislaine Maxwell? And has he not been truthful about that awareness since this exploded into the public domain? Julie.
Well, look, there was one woman, in fairness, there was one woman that filed a lawsuit in 2016 claiming that when she was 13 years old that she was raped by both Trump and Epstein. That there was never any evidence presented in it, and the woman just quietly went away, disappeared, just days before the election. So we can't, but it was a court document. It was a court lawsuit that was filed. So there's been that out there in the domain, but no, there hasn't been any credible evidence presented that Trump was involved.
But what about what he knew and when?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What about what he knew about it? I mean, I guess that is a more relevant question here today.
Well, I think that what these emails are showing, if nothing else, that he was part of Epstein's world very closely. The emails indicate that he was at Epstein's home. The emails seem to indicate that, that he might even have damaging information about Trump. I mean, there's one email from the author Michael Wolff, which was written just before the election, where Wolff is sort of coaxing Epstein to tell the public what he knows because it would finish him, was the words that Wolff used. Now, Epstein was a fabulist. We know that he exaggerated a lot of things. So just because these are in these, some of this damaging information are in these emails doesn't make it true.
Let me just read that email. This is from Jeffrey Epstein again to the author Michael Wolff. This is from December 15th, 2015. So it's 11 months, 11 months before the election. He says, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in a scrum afterwards. This is about a debate. And then Michael Wolff says, if we were able to craft an answer for him, Michael Wolff said that. And then Jeffrey Epstein says this: if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? And then Michael Wolff responds with, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is about to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Julie, remind me exactly what was happening with Jeffrey Epstein in this moment. Was he getting renewed scrutiny? Was he about to be arrested again?
Well, this was when the lawsuits were also coming out against him and Trump. Remember, I just mentioned that woman who sort of went by the name Jane Doe and Katie Johnson. So there was this lawsuit, as I said, that was in the news at the time. So and the questions were just sort of swirling around him just because of the Access Hollywood tape and the Stormy Daniels event. So there were a lot of questions right around this time about who he was involved with and what kind of sexual, accusations were being made at the time.
Yeah, just to be fair, this is from 2015. The Access Hollywood tape didn't come out until...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a little bit later. But yeah, there were still at the time questions about Donald Trump and his propriety. I mean, they'd been dogging him for years. So they were definitely coming up during the campaign in those early days. There was the Megyn Kelly dust up just a couple months earlier. So it was definitely out there, those questions.
Well, and also I just want to add the other one from Michael Wolff, not the one you read. There's another one that he wrote that's similar, that uses the word, it was right around this time where he uses the word, this could really finish Trump. So there's another email that wasn't part of the original 3 that were released where he is talking about this around the time of the election.
That's interesting. All right, let's bring in Tara Palmieri, author of Red Letter, the Red Letter on Substack, investigative and political journalist as well. Tara, so the president just posted this on True Social. He says the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting many at risk, and they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republicans involved should focus only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. How worried is the White House? How worried is the president about this Epstein stuff, these emails, and what could come?
Yeah, well, we know that when he says there's nothing going on there, that there are problems. And just last night, even before all of these emails leaked out, I was hearing that House members were talking about the fact that they could not, possibly vote nay on this one once the bill was actually on the floor. So there were already Republican members starting to break ranks. And I think these emails just apply more pressure, and you can see a really desperate White House that is responding that way. I mean, the New York Times is reporting that he's calling Lauren Boebert, he's calling Nancy Mace, who is running for governor in South Carolina and would need his endorsement to clear in the primary. But he is working every angle he can to try to get them to remove their names from the discharge petition so that the bill won't come to the floor. Because once it's on the floor, it's going to be really, really hard for these members not to vote for it. And he's in a really tough spot. And I think this whole idea of flood the zone, just dump all of the emails right now, get all of the journalists, in a tizzy looking through all of it. It reeks of desperation, frankly.
What about the reaction among Donald Trump's base? They had been so loud in a demand for the Epstein files to know who knew what, to hold those accountable. And it seems like some of that died off over the summer during the shutdown. Where are they today?
Yeah, I think that they were following him. I mean, his believers tend to trust him when he says there's nothing there, it's a hoax. Where are they today? I think that there is universal support for releasing the files. If there's nothing there, then show it. There's just so much mystery around it, too. And for so long, he said that it's a cabal of elitist Democrats. So they want to see that, too. I think that there is bipartisan desire for justice in this story, despite what he says. I just think that you're not hearing it from the loudest voices online anymore on the right because they now work in his administration. They're Kash Patel, Pam Bondi.
Yeah. I wonder where do they think the threat is coming, the White House? What do they think might happen if Donald Trump is further implicated?
I think it obviously weakens his presidency. I mean, he's only got, another year until the midterm elections when he will truly be a lame duck president. But this is really damaging. The idea that the president is that closely associated with a pedophile ring. I mean, this is, you have to think the UK ambassador to the US had to step down for much less. I mean, this is really something to see how closely associated it is in all of his emails. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
Someone who's trying to make it on TV. And so, this is just, I think it's political. It's kryptonite. I don't know how anyone can survive this, especially if the Epstein files reveal an even closer association. And it's a drip, 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 Katie. Like, it's the worst way to handle a story. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more there. There really is. Even Virginia Giuffre's book, she didn't even share all of it, all of the people that she was, trafficked to. It was 36 men. There's so many more. And that means that her files, her depositions, that men paid a lot of money to lawyers to try to redact their names. If those files are actually released unredacted, I mean, it will open up a whole new can of worms.
You have tuned in to the most dangerous combat sport in the world, American politics.
Welcome ending or a missed opportunity. It depends on who you ask. 7 Democrats and 1 independent joined Republican senators and just voted to end the shutdown. The deal still needs, of course, to pass the House, but it will fund the government until the end of January. It will not, however, extend health care subsidies. That will be set for a date for a vote at a later time to extend those subsidies potentially in December. Some major backlash is emerging inside the Democratic Party. Those 8 senators are defending their vote now.
This was the reality. SNAP recipients suffering, nothing happening on ACA. So from suffering and no path, we've now got robust benefits and a path.
Staying in a shutdown mode was not getting us anywhere.
If the battle plan isn't working, you change the battle plan. You try another tactic, especially if what's happening is danger to your troops.
It's like, take the win. We had an election and it went well on Tuesday. You want to overplay your hand.
But there are plenty of Democrats who disagree with those sentiments. For example, J.B. Pritzker says it wasn't a deal, but an empty promise. Congressman Seth Moulton said caving now makes no sense. California Governor Gavin Newsom called it pathetic and says America deserves better. Senator Chris Murphy added, submission emboldens the tyrant. And Congressman Ro Khanna says Chuck Schumer is no longer effective and needs to be replaced. And then you have Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying working people want leaders whose word means something. We have Congressman Jim Clyburn here at the table tonight. His new book comes out tomorrow. It's titled The First Eight. I have a copy of it here with me. I will have you sign it later. We will get to the book in just a bit. Sure. But first, this argument between Democrats. And I guess the big question is, if you didn't get the one thing that you were holding out for, what was it all for?
Well, I think we saw some things that we have not talked about that did happen. We saw what has happened with SNAP. I think that came out of this. What is happening with WIC, Women, Infant, and Children programs. So some things did happen. Now, on this particular issue, I think that's a real problem because you say you change your tactics. What are you changing to? It's a little bit like me hearing from my Republican friends, as I've been hearing for years, that we've got this plan. What kind of health care plan you have? They've never put one on the table. So if you got a new tactic, what's the new tactic? That's what causes me some pause about this plan. Now, if you promise a vote, is the vote on a bill or is the vote on the procedure? If you're promising me a vote on the bill, that means you're going to give me the 13 votes that you've got that I can get past the 60-vote filibuster. Now, if you're doing that and you will allow a direct vote, then I may have some consideration for it, because I do believe if you get to the 51, there are 2 or 3 Republicans that see the value in these tax credits.
Of the subsidies. Would you have voted along with the 7 Democrats that voted to go ahead and reopen the government and say, okay, you know what, we're not going to worry about the health care subsidies right this second. We just want to get this over?
Absolutely not. Not from what I've seen. They may know something I don't know. It may be that they have a promise for 13 votes to get beyond the filibuster. I have not heard that. If they had that kind of a promise, that's one thing I might take a look at. But if they don't have that as a promise, absolutely not. I would not vote for this.
Scott, I'm going to let you jump in here. But first, I want to let everyone hear from the Speaker of the House, who Jake Tapper talked to about this very issue, about whether or not this was going to be a vote, guaranteed vote, before the ACA subsidies end up ending. Let me let you hear what Mike Johnson had to say.
Would you bring it up?
Well, the bill that's going to pass
to extend the subsidies, that later vote.
I can't commit to anything that hasn't even passed through the Senate yet.
Will you have a vote on the issue as your 13 Republicans, frontline Republicans, people that you're the speaker because of them?
Yes.
They're in districts that are vulnerable. Sure. Will you have a vote so they can vote?
The very people that you were citing in the letter believe we have to have real reform.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it.
He's not committing to it or not committing to it. And this is the very thing that Democrats were afraid of, that if they capitulated, that the subsidies would not be dealt with. How do you respond to that? There are a lot of people worried about how expensive their health care is about to get.
Yeah, first of all, Congressman, congrats on your book. Honored to be with you tonight. Second, look, one thing that came out of this entire fight is that the healthcare system in this country has been, Obamacare, has been exposed as a complete and utter failure. We all know it now. Everybody admits it. The other thing that came out is that Democrats are willing to make people suffer. And you heard Democrat after Democrat today say, well, we just couldn't prolong the suffering. So they admit that their political tactics were designed to inflict suffering on the American people. We also learned about cynical politics in this. But the overall issue of health care is going to have to be dealt with because the system has failed. Everyone, I think it's bipartisan now, admits it. But I'm not sure that having Mike Johnson commit to giving billions of dollars to insurance companies for insurance that's not getting any better, it feels like it's getting worse to the American people, is going to make a difference. I could see Democrats and Republicans coming together to discuss that. Like, if we're going to spend this amount of money, should we be just giving it to insurance companies, or should we be doing something else with it that would actually have a chance of making it feel like you could get seen by a doctor and get a better health outcome? But what we're doing now, writing checks to health insurance companies, is not getting us any better outcomes at all.
But I think what we saw also, I think what America saw, particularly people who were directly impacted and suffering, is they saw that Donald Trump does not give a damn. While people were going hungry, while federal workers were making lines that went round blocks, he was in Mar-a-Lago golfing or hosting lavish parties with seafood towers and caviar and champagne. Not at one point did he say, we have got to convene, I'm going to lead, I'm going to put Republicans and Democrats in a room around a table,